Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to neutrally break down a really highly discussed political broadcast. It's honestly a fascinating piece of media. It weaves together international relations, historical territorial claims, and even a viral moment of youth activism, and then it completely pivots to some very specific channel promotions. So we're going to look strictly at what was presented, just analyzing the arguments and the information laid out by the hosts. Let's jump right in. Just to keep things structured, here's our agenda for today. 1. The human rights dispute. 2. The Thai representative stance. 3. Echoes from the youth. 4. Humanitarian history. And finally, 5. News and promotions.
All right, Section 1. Human rights dispute. So the commentators kick things off with a highly critical perspective on UN rapporteur Tom Andrews. Now, according to the broadcast, instead of simply gathering info and reporting back to the UN Human Rights Council like you'd normally expect, Andrews supposedly overstepped his mandate. The hosts used some pretty strong language here. They claimed he acted independently to whitewash Cambodia's image, while at the same time unfairly painting Thailand as the villain in a human rights context. This aggressive framing really stands in stark contrast to the standard international expectation of an impartial UN report. It basically sets the stage for this narrative of Thailand feeling unjustly targeted on the global stage.
Moving on to Section 2, Thai representative stance. To legitimize their pushback, the broadcast leaned heavily on statements from Siasak Phuket Gao. And this is a really strategic appeal to authority by the channel, because Siasak isn't just some former official, he is a former president of the UN Human Rights Council itself. So by highlighting his quote, the broadcast is making the case that Andrews' statements absolutely do not carry the official weight of a UN resolution. They explicitly frame the rapporteur's claims as factually inaccurate and deeply unfair to Thailand.
Building on that defense, the broadcast then reported on the institutional response. The Thai Ministry of Foreign Affairs didn't just let this slide. They issued an official counter-statement completely rejecting the rapporteur's claims and characterizing them as entirely one-sided. Crucially, they asserted that the vital data and context that Thailand actually provided were just completely ignored during the UN rapporteur's assessment.
Okay, Section 3, Echoes from the Youth. Shifting gears, they showcased Rin Thantong Ratnasaksiri, a 12th grade high school senior. She actually recorded a video entirely in English, addressing the international community directly. The broadcast commentators absolutely heaped praise on this video. They presented Rin as the ultimate example of genuine, new generation patriotism, which they noted was a stark contrast to other youth political movements that they frequently criticize.
Now, what is incredibly interesting about her approach is how she anchors this really complex geopolitical argument in a deep emotional appeal for human compassion. She isn't just up there reciting borders and treaties. She's asking the international community to remember the human element of these border disputes. It's a super sophisticated rhetorical strategy for a high school student, basically framing Thailand's historical actions as fundamentally humanitarian rather than political.
Furthermore, she powerfully addressed recent imagery showing the desecration of the Thai flag. She used this moment to remind the international community of the foundational respect that's totally required for peaceful coexistence. For the broadcast, highlighting this quote serves to underline a sense of wounded national dignity. They're urging viewers to see the flag not just as fabric, but literally as the physical embodiment of the country's sovereignty and its historical struggles.
Section 4, Humanitarian history.
To back up her point, she detailed a specific timeline. She pointed out that over 4 decades ago, Thailand opened its land and its heart, as she put it, to hundreds of thousands of Cambodian refugees fleeing the absolute horrors of civil war and the Khmer Rouge. She specifically named locations like the Kawi Dong and Sakeo holding centers in the late 1970s and the famous refugee camp 511 in the 1980s. The broadcast uses this timeline to make a stark contrast with the present day, arguing that these exact sites of historical Thai charity are now being falsely claimed by others as their own historical homeland.
So the crucial point she makes, and the one the broadcast really wants you to remember, is the strict definition of humanitarian assistance, providing temporary shelter, food, and medical aid to those fleeing armed conflict at sites like Camp 511, while that was an act of international goodwill. It was never intended, under any legal or moral framework whatsoever, to transfer Thai sovereignty or imply that Thailand was relinquishing its territorial rights to the land those camps sat upon.
She wrapped up her speech by laying out these clear, logical steps for the international community. She asked for a consideration of facts from all sides, a reliance on impartially verifiable evidence rather than one-sided narratives. And she stated that true trust can only be rebuilt through a sincere, honest acknowledgement of historical facts. The hosts of the broadcast thoroughly endorsed this roadmap, using it to cap off their defense of Thailand's international standing.
All right, Section 5, News and Promotions. First up in this section, the hosts briefly noted that August 5th is the birthday of former Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen. But rather than offering diplomatic commentary, the broadcast focused on neutrally reporting the massive wave of highly critical and mocking social media reactions from the Thai public that followed that date. It was a brief aside, but it definitely tied into the earlier geopolitical tensions they were discussing.
Finally, in a really sharp transition from international relations, the broadcast moved directly into a commercial promotion. They introduced their top news fan membership, anchored by the number 5,000. That is the cost in Thai baht for an annual subscription to their channel.
The channel dedicated significant airtime to justifying this cost. Because hey, who doesn't want a side of free travel luggage with their geopolitical commentary, right? Members immediately receive free travel luggage valued at 5,900 baht, plus a 20% discount on channel merchandise, 10% off channel-sponsored tours, and entry into 6 lucky draws with over 5 million baht in total prizes. It's a real textbook example of how modern media blends heavy political commentary with direct-to-consumer monetization strategies.
To conclude our explainer today, we want to leave you with a thought inspired by that high school student's impassioned speech. When looking at these disputes over human rights reports and territorial histories, we kind of have to ask, can international diplomacy find a way to honestly acknowledge the complex, sometimes painful realities of the past in order to secure a genuinely peaceful future? It's a really delicate balance between forgiveness and historical truth. Thank you so much for joining me as we unpack the narratives behind this broadcast. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.